I call on the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Armenia, Z.Mnatsakanyan, to address us.
Thank you very much, dear Vivian, Excellencies, dear colleagues, friends. I want to start with thanking Singapore Minister Balakrishnan, dear Vivian, for this initiative for a timely conversation in partnership with the elders on multilateralism. I'm also very grateful for the guardianship, the continued guardianship of this platform, the Forum of Small States, which is very critical. It reflects the interest, the particular interest of small states in multilateralism. And this is a very timely conversation. We're having this on the 75th anniversary of the United Nations. The smaller states, 193 member states of the United Nations, and the smaller states amongst them are the manifestation and materialization of the rights of all our peoples to self-determination, to be a sovereign voice in international relations, and to work together towards materializing what is in the Charter of the United Nations, to speak on behalf of we the people, on behalf of our people. And the 75th anniversary is also a reminder that 75 years is a very short time in the history of humanity. And 75 years ago, the United Nations was created on the ashes of a big calamity, of the Second World War. And I think it's an unprecedented experience in the history of humanity to have the United Nations. So many nations, so many people have the capacity, the opportunity to not to delegate their voice, not to depend on the voice of the others, but to be the voice. And I think Simon was absolutely right. All our peoples, we the smaller nations, we may be small, but we have big ideas. And we have the capacity and the creativity to work together towards peace, towards security, towards development, and towards the protection of human rights. 75 years, I think the United Nations has created extraordinary examples of multilateralism. Extraordinary examples in many ways, in every area, whether it is in security, in development, or in human rights, in other areas which require cooperation, which require collective action, which require multilateralism. 75 years has also made it more than obvious to all of us that we depend on each other. But at the same time, we are preparing for the 75th anniversary, 75th session of the United Nations General Assembly, and we have a question if we will be able to get together in the usual format of physical presence for the 75th anniversary, for the 75th session of the General Assembly. And the reason is this global pandemic. The global pandemic, it has brought suffering to many in the international community. No one has been spared. But it is also a reflection on our vulnerabilities, a reflection on the shrinking space of humanitarian space, global solidarity, and trust in multilateral institutions. I think it's a call for action. I recall the wisdom of the Secretary General, former Secretary General of the United Nations, Dag Hammarskjöld. He was absolutely right to not expect the United Nations to take us to heaven. But the United Nations can save us from hell. And this is the time, this is sort of a call for action. This is the test of our resilience, the test of our collective capacity. And multilateralism in this very context matters as ever. I want to reflect also on, while speaking about the Secretary Generalship in the United Nations, I think I want to reflect on the role of the present Secretary General, Antonio Guterres. I'm deeply grateful to him for his wisdom, for his resilience against the pressures on multilateralism, the pressures on the United Nations. And I think we do need a consolidated support. We do need to consolidate our support to the Secretary General of the United Nations. He has been very quick, very timely to remind us at the time of the pandemic about the need for collective action. His call for the global ceasefire was one particular example when he just reminded to us how important it is to be responsible at such a time. There are many examples of good multilateralism. Over 75 years, we have created considerable foundations for cooperation, legal foundations, including through many conventions and through many other instruments which bind us together. We still refer, 75 years on, refer with full confidence to the powers of the Charter of the United Nations as the absolute global constitution for all of us. We have good examples of practical cooperation. A colleague reminded us about the instrument of women, peace and security in promoting peace. We have the Sustainable Development Goals as another very important example of effective multilateralism, and many, many others. Multilateralism is also important at regional and sub-regional level, and I think this is also something we need to reflect on. So 75th anniversary of the United Nations Charter stands also as an important reminder about the collective powers of we, the people, and the faith in human rights, in the dignity and worth of the human person. Collectively, we should do more to help mitigate situations of crisis where the basic human rights are increasingly challenged. This necessitates a reinforced emphasis on the capacity of multilateral institutions to deliver adequate response. We, as Armenia, over 2 decades, we have been carrying a duty, we have taken upon ourselves a duty, together with other partners, a duty and also on our part, a moral imperative to help consolidate international efforts aimed at prevention of genocides, mass atrocities, strengthening early warning capacities to prevent future atrocities. The UN resolutions initiated by Armenia within the General Assembly and the Human Rights Council serve as the purpose of elaboration of strategies for the prevention of genocides, war crimes, crimes against humanity, which we are convinced are an important manifestation of effective multilateralism with consensual and substantive outcomes. Mr. Chair, dear Vivian, once again, we reiterate our resolution to continue to contribute to efforts aimed at strengthening multilateral institutions, to prevent exclusion, hatred, radicalism, protect human rights, human dignity worldwide, to work together towards peace and security, to work together towards our common development agenda. Thank you very much.